Hello and welcome to The Uncommon Truth. I'm Luke and I'm joined as always by Steve and Vicki Orsillo.
Hello.
We're glad to have you here as always.
We are glad to be here.
So I heard a little line or two of a song you were singing when you came in, Vicki.
Help me, Rhonda.
Yeah.
You know that song?
No.
Yeah, but who's Rhonda?
Yeah, she needs help.
Oh.
Whoever she is, she needs help.
Yeah.
Your name's Rhonda, I'm praying for help.
Yeah?
You know that song, sing it for them.
I don't think so.
It's the Beach Boys.
Is that going to be another
Help
song
me, Rhonda, help
Yep.
me get her out of my heart.
You just help me, Rhonda.
Well,
Yeah,
I sang a different line.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, do you know the Beach Boys?
I do know the Beach Boys.
Do you know the Beach Boys? Oh, you guys do? Okay, that's awesome.
Usually we find that when I look up the lyrics of the songs that we sing that they have a strange meaning, like
Yeah, help me get her out of my heart.
Like Lola.
Help me, Rhonda. Oh, Lola, yeah.
Yeah.
Lola's not a good one by
Yeah.
the Kinks. Just the name the Kinks would probably not be very good.
Yeah.
well, we're...
And Eric Clapton.
Oh.
Lola. Layla.
That's Layla.
Oh.
Okay, Lola. Never mind.
Oh my gosh. We're sorry.
We're sorry.
It's late in the afternoon and
Yeah. Someone was a little later, but we won't say who.
Steve.
Yeah, Vicki didn't come to the table until 2 o'clock.
Steve. I called Steve today for all of you, and Luke says, Vicki, can you get a hold of Steve? Can you? And then somebody said, check their, what's it called? Find my iPhone. I said, I don't do that. Only Steve does that. But I called Steve, and I said, hey, Steve, where are you? He goes, what do you mean? I said, we're supposed to be doing the podcast. And what did you say?
Oh, my gosh.
Whoops.
Uh-oh.
It's only every Thursday.
Yeah, well, I have many things on my
Oh,
mind.
boy.
I was going the wrong way.
Are we gearing up for Lights of Hope? How's that going?
It's busy. Let me tell you, it's a lot, and it's fun. It's just a blast. Build beautiful things and have people come and enjoy them and bless their lives. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But we're building neat things.
That's right. It's going to be great.
Constantly improving the next time we do something.
Yeah.
Make it better.
We had a very successful Friday night at our Night at the
that was
Oscars
fun.
fundraiser for AV's Place.
That was really a lot of fun.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yes,
had
we
a lot of fun, a lot of great support raised. So we've been
It was
having,
great.
It's been a fun few weeks at the Father's
We
house.
know we love to do things at the Father's house.
Yeah.
We're always doing something wonderful and fun, and Lights of Hope last year was our first year, and it was 21 days every 21 nights, and I think we had over 18,000 people come to look at the lights.
Wow.
It was
Yeah,
pretty
just
amazing.
at 18. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're excited.
Very excited, and we're really grateful to everyone who gets involved and helps us make those things happen. I know,
Absolutely.
I know many of our church members listen to the podcast, and we're really
Thank you all.
thankful for all that you do.
We have a great church.
We do have a wonderful church. So today, we are going to talk about love.
Oh, great.
There's a lot of songs I know for love.
Yeah?
Oh,
Do you have
great.
one for us?
No, I don't. Do you?
I didn't say I have a lot of songs for love. And didn't say no. I don't.
I'll come up with one.
No, I wasn't trying
I
to
was
think
thinking
of
of
one
all the
because you had a lot.
Love the Lord you got. Remember that one? With all your heart.
Are we talking about Christian songs?
Well, that's the only one I had. I was trying to think of like other ones, and I have nothing.
Tell me, Vicki, do you love Jesus? How about that
yes,
one?
no.
You hear my voice crack? I probably
that's
shouldn't
great.
do it.
I don't know that one. Okay.
12-year-old boy.
So love is, I mean, we all have this idea, right, or know that God is love. We all know that passage from 1 John. But what does love really mean in a Christian sense? Is it just a nice feeling in our hearts?
I really
or-
love that you asked that question.
Would you like
And
me
I
to-
love that Steve's going to answer first.
So, love is a word that we've totally destroyed here in Christianity, and well, in the whole world. We just have the whole world, with the media world. Everybody having 300 channels in their TV and
Yeah.
a computer in your pocket that you can be on listening to anything, and we've kind of changed the definition of what a hero is. We've changed a bunch of definitions, and one of the ones we've destroyed the most is the word love. In terms of using it to describe something, like how you feel about your spouse or your girlfriend or your friend or your children, your neighbor. And we use the word love continually. We get up in the morning and we make a cup of coffee. We say we love our coffee. The dog runs up to us. We say we love our dog. Go out for me, I have a deck with a view, so I love my view. Mm-hmm. And I love my mornings out on that deck.
Yeah.
And I love all these things. And then my children get up and they run to me and I say, I love my children. And I say, I love my wife. We use the same word. And most of us barely ever differentiate and know what it is. We think it's a feeling. We think it's an emotion that we have.
Right.
And the love described in the Bible, the love of God, for this is the love of God. And God is love, is not very often a feeling, not described in the Bible. It's always based on an action, a plan, a purpose for somebody. So God loves us. He has a plan. We fail that plan, and then he takes action to revise that and redo that for us. And in our case, the love of God is described as and poured out for as Jesus. Jesus, we're coming on Christmas. It's the birth of Jesus, the life of Jesus, the death of Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus, and then the return of Jesus to the earth in the form of the Holy Spirit to fulfill his promise that my Father and I will make our home in you. This is all love. This is all the very definition of love. He who humbled himself and submitted himself even unto death, did not even try to avoid the cross. At one point he says, Father, can I avoid this cross? But if not, that's fine. I'll do it. And he did it. And he never once called for help. And this is the definition of love for me. And I know one word that's better than love, and that's selflessness. This compound word, selflessness, is the very definition of love when applied to another human being. I am selfless towards you. I am loving you. I am putting you first. I am making myself less. I am being selfless. Less of myself towards you, more of you. You're more important. That's love. And that's what God has done. For this is the love of the Father, the Bible says. For this is God's love, and this is how we know he loves us. He sent his son to die on a cross for us. Wow. And John 3:16, the most famous of all, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, so that whoever would believe in him would have everlasting life and not perish. This is love. You love someone, you give for them. And in this case, you sacrifice dearly and greatly for them. You lay down your life. And Jesus is the epitome of the word love. If you want to know what love is, look at Jesus' life. Read Jesus, follow Jesus, eat, sleep, and drink Jesus, quote Jesus, talk in Jesus' terms, only act on what Jesus has said, and you will be the most loving person that has ever walked the earth. You will care about people who are lower than you, that have nothing to return to you, that take from you. You know, you will be the epitome of love in your community.
So good.
Just demonstrate it. Eat it, drink it, quote it, do it all. Cool. And you will see. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add to
that? I agree that the word love is, there's so many different words in the English language. Yeah. And what does real love mean? What is the love, that definition that God has?
Right.
It's not so much different than love that you and I have.
Yeah, that selflessness, it definitely does separate.
Yes.
Would I be willing to lay down my life for
your dog,
my dog, or my coffee, or my chocolate, or my whatever, right? That definitely makes it. I guess one of the phrases we use a lot is love is an action, right? Love is more. It's not just the emotion. Love is seen.
It is demonstrated through cost, through action, through sacrifice, through emotion, an emotional blessing, good things. It's demonstrated in gift giving, in physical touch, in words of affirmation, in acts of kindness, it's taking the cost on you, the pain on you, paying the penalty for someone. It's, doing the hard things. For me, disciplining children was an incredible act of love, because there's no chance on earth I want to discipline this beautiful little thing. But if I don't, they won't learn, and that isn't love, not disciplining them. Right. Yeah, so even that, doing things you don't want to do, hardships for the betterment or the good of someone else, to help them learn and grow and become what they're, what they can become, what their potential is. Empowering them, that's love. And that's what God does for us. He empowers us. Teaches us, sacrifices for us, gives to us. I can imagine Jesus laying on the cross with the nail ready between the two bones of his wrist and the hammer ready to fall. I picture him laying there with that nail ready. The man has raised his hammer to strike the nail, and Jesus knows he could call 12 legions of angels to come rescue him, and he does not call them. Right. And what was the motive? Love. Yeah. To take the nail for you and me. You know, the pregnant pause on the push of the 2-inch thorns on his head. They placed him. They're about to push him into his skin. And he says, and he knows in that pregnant pause, let me just pregnant pause the story. He could have called 12 legions of angels, which is roughly 72,000, to rescue him in an instant. The Father could have rescued him in the blink of an eye, and he did not call out. He did not cry out. He took the thorns, he took the whipping post, he took that nail. That hammer fell, and he was pierced for our transgressions.
I was last night we had the opportunity of having our pastor Jessica speak, and she did a medical report of the crucifixion. Yeah. And it's just so sobering. I mean, to hear it in context like that. And what Steve is saying is that at any time he could have said, yeah, I'm thinking no. You know, I don't want to do that. But he continued. I mean, the abuse and the mocking and along with the rejection and along with the physical torment that he went through for me, I just don't ever want to forgive that, the love that he poured out while I was yet a sinner. Wow. He died for me, like that death. I mean, it wasn't just like somebody shot him and he's dead. No, it was Steve said before, it's probably the bloodiest, most horrific form of execution there is in the history of our mankind, world. Yeah. And it's like, I never thought about that. It's like, why he could have been a savior anytime. Right. He could have came anytime. Yep. And he could, whatever, he was hung or whatever, But that crime scene that was involved in his death, his massacre, his murder, it just go. And then hearing it again last night, and because she corresponded that with not, in Revelations and forgetting your first love, right, to the churches, and was Ephesus, Church of Ephesus. Yep. And I don't want to ever forget, and yet I do. I mean, last night again, I was just there at the cross, at the whole, from the moment he was arrested, there just, oh my goodness, he could have called 72,000 angels, and he didn't because he loved me. And yet he said that if I was the only one, he would have done it for me. That's how encompassing. There's no grid to understand that love. Yeah, I mean, we love our children, and we love our grandchildren, and we really, really would die for them, but it's just not, I mean, it's minuscule compared to what he did for us. Right.
And I think just that fact that you said he wasn't surprised. He wasn't like he was shot in the back. No. He willingly went to the cross. He walked to Jerusalem knowing he knew what he was doing. And I wonder how often we willingly walk towards suffering for the sake of somebody else.
No, we walk away. Yeah. We see a cloud coming and we want to run. Right. And it's, I mean, I don't want to be persecuted. I try to, somebody's mean to me and I'm like, I just go through all kinds of gymnastics in my head.
Which kind of brings me to my next question, which was, who are we supposed to love? Like, who does Jesus call us to love?
The least of these, my brothers. I mean, or the least and the greatest. I mean, I think it's everybody. It's very difficult because we judge the amount that we love. We calibrate it. I mean, all of us struggle. With the people with the signs on the side of the freeway, or the homeless, or the dirty, or the drug addicted. It's easier to love people who are like us. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to love people who are not like us, and yet Jesus that's who he went to, is the people who needs a doctor. Yeah. So he said the sick need a doctor, and that's who he went to. But it really is everybody. But that's kind of like, you hear that all the time, and it's just a platitude. But the truth is everybody. Right. In practicality.
Jesus actually says, what good is it if we only love those who love us? Right. Even the heathens do that.
That's right.
But you love those who have nothing, you can gain nothing from, that have nothing to give you, that even one place said, love those who hate you.
That's right.
And so when you say, who are we supposed to love? Yeah, well, our neighbor, that's the easy term to say, but it's love those who hate you. do good to those who despise you.
Oh my
Do
gosh.
good to those who do evil to you. In different places, he said different things. What good is it, he says, if you do that? It's not any good, is his point.
Even the
Wow.
pagans do that,
Yeah,
right?
even the pagans, even the heathens do that. And it's like, oh, wow, I'm kind of a heathen. I do that. And yet, in the grace of God, I am able to be loved, and even in some cases, at least, not hate those who hate me. And so
Boy,
I'm on my way.
that's hard. I mean, honestly, Steve and I, we live together. Obviously, we're married, and
Glad to clarify that.
yeah, glad to clarify that. But talking about, I mean, always working out the people that are mean to us. As a pastor, it's difficult. It's difficult, the betrayal sometimes. I asked a friend recently. I said, if you had to do it all over again, would you become a pastor? And it was like, yeah, except I don't think I trust this is what they said. I don't think I trust as easily,
As readily.
as readily, because it's difficult. And that's our conversation always at home, is like, how do we love? How do we not be offended?
Yeah.
Because just what he said, Jesus said, love those people. And you're like,
Yeah.
they're mean to me.
Right.
How do I love them?
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
It's hard.
It's so hard.
I suppose he sets the standard on that as he.
Say again?
I suppose he sets the standard as he forgives the ones who are crucifying him in the moment.
I
right?
know.
Which is,
It's like, how does he not hate all those people? They spit in his face. I mean, I would have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
And then the thorns, and then they pushed him down, and then the nail, and then the ripping of the skin. I mean, just how did he not?
All
hate
that before he died for him.
before he died.
Yeah, they didn't sucker him into doing it and then treat him bad. They treated him bad, and he still did it.
right.
My thought, the first time they spit in my face, like, well, basically,
Yeah.
Go
to you.
Go ahead and go to hell.
go ahead and go to hell. I mean, it goes, and hearing that story in context of the medical report of his crucifixion, it's like, talk about love. I mean, I don't get it. It's very hard for me.
Yeah. I was thinking in the world today, whether it's Christians or just the world, one thing we've talked about, I think on the podcast maybe, but we talk about it a lot, is that people no longer have the capacity to disagree yet still love each other, right?
Right.
So how can we, when it comes to politics, not giving an opinion politically, how can we love one another in the political sphere, or love
good.
one another when we don't agree with someone's choices? Like how do we do that? How do we demonstrate
really
love and disagree?
How do we demonstrate love and disagree?
It's really good.
It's easy because the acts of love, whatever the subject is you're disagreeing about, they can be done in a beside that. Like, you don't have to go, okay, I'll go ahead and agree with you so that I love you. Mm-hmm. It seems to me like if it's acts of service, if it's kind words, if it's encouragement, you can do that when you disagree with somebody.
Yeah.
It's kind of like prison ministry. When people go, you don't agree with what they did. You don't agree with where they're at. You don't agree with their lifestyle they chose.
Yeah.
Every day I'm in touch with people who I don't agree with what they're doing, but I can always give them a loving answer. I can always give them an encouraging answer to do the right thing. And I can say, I know you probably don't agree with this, but this is what I do. I just love Jesus, and if I were to give you advice, it would be to love Jesus. And agree with what? It doesn't matter what you disagree. They can be, for nuclear proliferation, and they want to see a nuclear war so that to kill off, the population control. And you don't agree with that at all, and you feel like appalled by it, but you still can come back with, things about Jesus, encouragements to, you might need a little bit of the love of God. You can bring them back to something good.
Yeah.
I think that's how you love them. I think you have to also, if it's personal stuff where it's a personal affront, where they're constantly accusing you, they're constantly, threatening you or doing bad things to you, it gets a little harder because it gets personal. But when you divorce yourself from that and really look at what Jesus did, what he did in his lifetime, I think it becomes easier for you to do some of those things. And I think there could be many things. acts of all those things I mentioned, acts of kindness, words of encouragement, acts of service.
Yeah.
I think lots of time those different arenas, politically. Let's just talk about politically. The alienation of America, like in America, I can only speak to that. The liberals versus the conservatives, or the Republicans versus Democrats. The truth is that's just a distraction.
Yeah.
And do I think abortion is wrong? 100%. I think it's the most horrible, heinous thing ever. But those people that are so angry and hateful, the only thing that's going to change them is the love of Jesus. You're not going to be able to argue at a right now. There's just no way to argue a point. No one's going to be swayed by your Facebook post about what you believe. All you're going to do is make people angry and hateful.
Right.
However, if like Steve said, the love of God, just loving them, listening to them, and just saying, you bring it back into Jesus. I know here at the Father's house, through these last few years, there's been some political upheavals, different polarizing groups, and Steve said, on your Facebook, it's just the love of Jesus. Yeah. And I believe what the spirit of the Antichrist right now is all about distractions and division. And who's the bridge? It's Jesus. Who brings you to whole, makes you new? Jesus. Yeah. He transcends every political statement. Yeah. And even if we think we're right and we demand and we're morally right, you're not going to sway. The only thing that's going to help people is to know Jesus and him crucified, and that he died, and that you two can have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Yeah. So it transcends everything. But me, get sucked in all the time to political things. In fact, I have in the past felt very strongly towards opposing political ideas. I can't even understand how you could be a Christian and think these things. And and politically, there's some of our representatives I think are just in the natural very horrible the way they govern morally. And I think it was Ed Silvoso said, are you praying for them? Are you praying that they don't go to hell? Because honestly, everything is going to be, we're going to be with Jesus one day, and we're going to rest in peace, and this is going to be just a memory. But have I prayed for those people, or do I hate them? Wow. And for me, I was so convicted because there's actually almost probably borders on hate.
Yeah. It borders on hate.
It borders on hate, and when you separate yourself and you see people, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, you see the hate spewing out of them if they and they really honestly believe what they believe, and they honestly believe it, and it's intrinsic. Even if we think it's morally an abomination. Yeah. So I'm not going to get them to my side. But if I can tell them and show them Jesus, it makes all the difference in the world. And keeping your heart pure. So
show them love as opposed to trying to win the argument.
Correct. I'm tired of winning the arguments. It does nothing eternally. Yeah. And it's like I think if they meet Jesus, and the moral things will fall off if they know Jesus. Jesus will. I mean, he did it for me. I was on one political spectrum. I believed all these things, and then Jesus came in my life. I don't believe those anymore. He totally transformed me.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's dive into, I guess, what Jesus says about love, the sound of love. I'm going to read from John chapter 13, verse 34 and 35. He says, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. I think kind of what we've been talking about right now, just on the political side of it, but just in general, whether it's on social media, whether it's just the people we see in our day-to-day life, are we displaying that we're his disciples through our love? How do we do that? How can we grow in that?
Did you say John 13:13?
13, 34, and 35.
Okay, thank you.
So I think that it's how do you demonstrate it is in your day-to-day life, you live the principles of giving, being selfless, defining love as selfless, and not defining love as what I get. And I think that's how you show it. In a day-to-day, you finally get them to trust you, and they see over a period of many years that you are what you say you are. I think that's more than anything. What we've done is our actions have not spoken as loud as our words.
Right.
Vicki and I grew up in a church where kids were being molested, kids were being abused. And that is totally wrong. And that church hiding that, putting that under the rug, moving those guys to other churches without firing them, destroyed a lot of children and destroyed a lot of faith.
Yeah.
Those people know that man did not believe what he was preaching to them. He wore robes, he wore collars, but he did not believe what he was preaching to them about laying down your life, about all of these scriptures about love. He certainly didn't believe it. He said it.
Yeah.
He had the robe and he had the collar. He had the honor. You know, our families made us honor these guys. And some of them were mean. And the women in their uniforms, they were some of the meanest people we'd ever encountered. And it just wasn't lived out as what it was supposed to be. And so therefore, just a mass amount of young people like Vicki and I, when we were kids, don't believe in Jesus because they met these men. And so the effect is terrible of doing the opposite. But if you just be real and love, and you begin to learn the words of Jesus and you live them, eat them, breathe them, and they become you, you become them. I think you're real behind closed doors. And that's how you come out of those doors. You'll automatically, you won't even need to be taught how. You just love by seeing needs, meeting them. I was hungry and you fed me not. I was thirsty and you gave me nothing to drink. Yeah. And he says, you know, and it goes on, but he said, at the end, he says, they say, when did we do that? And he says to another group, the sheep, he says, I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was naked and afraid and you comforted me, clothed me and comforted me. I was in prison and you visited me. When? And they said the same thing. When? See, it's not like, I mean, it can be, I don't even know when.
Right.
I just did it because I saw you suffering and I met your need. Well, the sheep in that story loved tremendously the hungry, naked, you know, afraid, imprisoned person. And the goats didn't.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know a better parable that describes better what love is. There was a need and you ignored it. Oh. I was hurting and you didn't care. I needed you and you didn't care. Yeah. And the other guys, I needed you and you cared for me. I was uncomfortable, you comforted me. I was lost and you helped me get found. You discovered me, just born again experiences. And we've had so many in our lives. And we have such example of what love looks like. And I think that it can be misconstrued and people can get off track, but I think that's the clear, present truth right there.
Yeah. Don't you want to address, though, the new commandment I give you and the confusing message of what the new commandment is in the high ideal and 34, where a new commandment was given to us? Because you have asked quite a few people what the command of Christ is, right?
So, yeah, there's this, it seems like such a unknown what God wants us to do. Jesus had a situation where it was a rich young ruler, came in and asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? And he said the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. Yeah. On these two rest the whole law and prophets. And Christians have picked that up as the greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Right. And I think the reason we picked that up is because it's easy. It's really easy.
It's easier.
Self-hate is such a horrible thing in our country. And so if I hate me, it's not a very high bar to love you with. I mean, all I got to do is hate you less than me, and I've loved you more than me. Right. Because you'll see that in Jesus' vernacular. He says, if you don't hate your mother and father, and what that word means is love me more.
Love me more then, yeah.
It doesn't mean hate. So love me more in English. Yeah. But in their phraseology, it's love me more. And so if you don't, if it's pretty easy to love you more if I hate me. You don't have to be very far up. You don't have to be very. I don't have to have any affection for you. I don't care whether you're. I don't have to care if you're hurting as long as I don't care if I'm hurting.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's the bottom of the barrel, but it goes all the way up in all the mediocre, lukewarm, gray areas where we don't take others as more important than ourselves.
He was answering the greatest in the law and the prophets, which is the old covenant.
Right, that's what I said.
No, I just want to reiterate that he was talking.
A rich young ruler asked him, "What's the greatest commandment in the law?"
Yeah,
and he answered.
Thank you.
And we've taken that to be the command of Christ.
Yeah.
But when you ask people what's the command of Christ, they always quote that.
That's right.
And it's really important, the question, what does Jesus command us? Yeah. Or what is the command of Christ? And he says right there in John 13:34, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. Yeah. And it's this action which is, whoa, the bar just got raised a couple of 100 miles, because the way Jesus loved us was he took that nail for us. Right. When nobody forced it on him. He did it willingly. Yep. Nobody took his life. Nobody took Jesus' life from him. He gave it willingly. And he laid there and let them beat him, and he felt the pain, and they let them nail them, and he let them punch him and spit on him and abuse him, the very people he was doing this for. Yeah. And he did it. That's love.
That's love.
That's the love that he had for us. That's that he was born in the birth canal. He came through the womb. Yes. I mean, everything. I mean, he could have appeared as a king, that he was a lowly carpenter in a lowly city, in a lowly country.
Right.
And he came and demonstrated his love through this amazingly humble thing. And a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. Oh, no, because that's way out of my reach. Yeah. Now, loving as I want you to love me, how about if I just don't care if you love me, then I don't have to love you. Yep. But love as Jesus loved, there's no weasel clause.
No.
He already did it. There's no interpretation of how he loved us.
That's right.
For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. This is how he loved us, and this is how we know he loves us. He sent his son to die on a cross. And this is the love of the Father, that he sent Jesus to die on the cross. And these are all scriptural references to this is what love is. Yeah. And he did it already. Yeah. Now the commandment to you and I is love one another in the same way. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that's something I've ever been able to do really perfectly, but it is a goal to reach for. And if you reach for it, I think that's the journey. The journey is the pursuit. The success is in little minor victories here and there. Yeah. And in my life, I've come a long way, Pilgrim, from being a man who was really good at hating people and really didn't like myself much, to being a man who lays his life down and I can't wait to get out there and do things, and just so people can have a great time and a great Christmas, and maybe I'll get the chance to minister to them with words. I'm going to minister them 100% when they show up, and wherever it's necessary and wherever I can, I'm going to use words.
It's really good. I just really wanted you to underline that, because it is so important to the I think to the clarity of Christianity. Is that most people, when you ask them what the command of Christ is, they will say, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor yourself. And that's honestly, if you could do that, even that would be great. But in 34, he does say a new commandment I give you. Yeah. He ramps it up. And it's like that you love one another even as I have loved you. And we've talked at the beginning about the crucifixion and what he did for us. And I mean, we should always kind of find ourselves lacking. Yeah. I mean, I do. I'm not there, obviously. I get so affected by what people say and do to me that I'm always trying to work out my salvation with fear and trembling. And I don't think, honestly, I will get this until I see him face to face. Though I never want that to be excuse. I want to continue every day working on my salvation with fear and trembling and trying to love others as I have been loved. And it's such incredibly different command. Yes. And I think that it's really an incredible misnomer in the Christian community, what it is, what love is.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
really good.
I'm on the road. I want
Yeah.
to keep doing this.
We're on it together.
We're
right?
on it, yeah.
You know, I was thinking again. One of the things that really stands out to me about what Jesus did was he does this such a great sacrifice, not for the guarantee that we'll respond, right, but for the chance that we may. And some of my ministry experience over the last
Wow.
I don't know how many years it is now, 10 plus years is, and you're for the how many years it has been you guys have been in ministry together, is that we choose to love people and lay down our lives to people, but we don't know what they're going to do with it. And you were talking about it a little bit before about people have hurt you and betrayed you. But I was thinking about our Life Recovery Ministry program in particular, our recovery program, how we bring people in and we give them a home and a new chance. And often it ends in, just your heart being broken. And I think one of the lessons I remember you taught early on, Steve, that maybe some of our listeners might need to hear this, is just that just because we've been hurt doesn't mean that we can love the next person any less. And I wonder if we could go into that, because maybe some of our listeners have tried to love people and tried to help and tried to be like this, but hit brick walls or disappointment or frustration, and maybe felt like, well, maybe there's no point anymore, maybe and kind of given up. So could you talk to that?
Well, think of this: Jesus laying there on that wood again, the nails there in his wrist,
Yeah.
the hammer's raised.
Yeah.
And there is no guarantee the people he's going to die for are going to let that penalty be paid for them.
Right.
He's going to let them do it, and there's no guarantee it's going to work.
Yeah.
It's not. He's not guaranteed Steve's going to be saved. And Steve needs me. I've got to go through with this. Maybe it's on his mind. I hope it was on his mind. But there's no guarantee Steve's going to receive it.
Right.
And so and how many people rejected him? One of his 12 even betrayed him, and all 12 scattered. And so just in a human sense, I mean, he saw it. People that were, yelling Hosanna to him on the road into Jerusalem.
Friday.
Some of those were probably
Crucifying.
faces in the crowd yelling crucify.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's very simple. It's just the next, you give all you have, and it's there. All I've really been able to do with people is give them a choice. Do you want to know? And if they come in and they give their hearts to Jesus and they try with all their heart, they just give their heart to Jesus. And then they decide, no, I don't want this. I want something else more. Why is that a bridge to me? Jesus died for me. I get to be forgiven. I get to be saved. I get to know God. I can actually talk to him and feel that he hears me. I can hear his voice when I stop and listen. And he gives me instruction, and he tells me things to do. And he uses me in miraculous manners. So what in the heck would somebody else's failure have to do with my faith?
It's really good.
I have to decide, do I know him?
Or not.
Do I love him? Do I want to follow him? And then, we lately have had a whole bunch of falling off the map kind of stuff. People going back to drugs, people dying. We've had so many people die lately that we had given our lives in love to for a long period of time. A young woman that just died, had drank herself, just anesthetized herself for so many years, wet-brained. And we had her for 6 years or 5 years, and she was a lovely lady who was served around here, just part of our team, and he went right on back to drinking and living in sin and, living with her boyfriend, living in sin and just using drugs until she destroyed her body with that alcohol and she died. And it was so heartbreaking. And he also the boyfriend was also someone from our team. And he didn't come back either. And he's just still killing himself. But why does that change the fact that Jesus is faithful? Isn't he faithful whether they're faithful or not?
Wow.
Isn't he faithful whether they're good or not?
Yep.
And if it's not that he failed or that his power is not enough to save these people, you have to choose to be saved. You have to want to be known by God and know God. And you've got to pursue him. And you've got to live the lifestyle that he demonstrated. Now, her drinking was 100% not loving as she had been loved. When she drank, she just absolutely she had many children, let them all down. Everybody. She let us down. She did not love us or anyone else I know in a manner that Jesus loved her. She did not lay her life down for people. She just tipped a bottle and anesthetized her pain. And I'm not judging her. I'm just saying, why should her failure affect my faith? I also have a ton of people whose my faith has had such influence on their success.
Right.
I think I'd rather the joy of the successes be greater than the
good.
pain of the failures.
So good.
I'd rather what I have be more eminent in my thinking than what I don't have. What I don't have is those people who fell away. What I do have is those people who grabbed hold and held on.
Yeah.
And they're with me, and they walk alongside me, and we bless each other, and we do this scripture. We love each other in an attempt trying to love each other as we have been loved. Celebrating what we have, celebrating what good there is, loving our lives, and being just ecstatic for what God has been in our lives.
It's really good. I think if you look just four lines up or something, it's about Judas betraying him.
Yeah.
So here's Jesus, and it goes hand in hand with what you said, is so oftentimes it is usually leaders and pastors who have let us down. And then we just stop loving, being loved. And I think probably for the most of Christianity, it's more so than what Steve's talking about, the recovery, because not everybody deals with people in drug addiction.
But even just people that friends try to help, family members try to help. Does that?
Yes.
We can hit that wall. We
really can.
try
And
love
I think
and get.
for us, we've had. I know Steve. It's 4 out of 6 pastors that we've had have failed miserably sexually.
Right.
And so if that's the case, then we shouldn't be saved. We shouldn't even be walking with Jesus. No, Jesus is still faithful, and I really liked what he said. In spite of people's decisions, he's still faithful. Yeah. And there's a cloud of witnesses who say, especially surrounding us, to say, yeah, he's faithful, and the command is love. And I'm going to continue to do that because he's first loved me. That's good. And but yeah, there's I think the road in our life is littered with people who don't even call themselves Christians anymore, and we sit around at night stunned. Yeah. Because people who are just next to us. Some of them we just found good friends in jail for doing all kinds of horrible things. Yeah. It's like you knew Jesus. You had every part of the ministry. That's actually what he says in Acts. It's like Judas had every part of the ministry, and he decided to betray Jesus. And even Peter.
And the other disciples didn't quit serving Jesus because Judas failed. Right. They just marveled at Judas's failure and said, "Give me I want what you have."
Yeah. And then even Peter. I mean, just in the next line, Jesus is gonna, say, "Well, you're gonna mess up too." And to Peter's credit, he came back, and I'm sure there's a lot of humility. But he lost. I imagine he lost his faith when this happened. But we so often are victims of other people's decisions, and seriously, why? Right. Why do you let other people's failures cause you not to receive the love of Jesus and then be more and more like him? Yeah. To me, it just solidifies what I believe in more.
Yeah, I think people sometimes maybe feel powerless almost. Powerless. And there's a story that Steve shares to that. I wonder if you could share it with us, your Starfish story.
Well, this is something I've heard, and it's kind of
it's Max Lucado.
I think it is Max Lucado, but I didn't know where it came from.
It's Max Lucado.
Yeah, this little boy walks up over this hill, and he sees this. Just that the high tide had an ebb tide, and the high tide before had washed up just a mass amount of starfishes on the sand, and then the tide had gone out, leaving them on the sand, and the sun was baking on them. Yeah. And if they, stayed out in a whole day's sun, they would probably die. So the little boy ran down to the water, and he just started throwing starfish into the water. Yeah. And a well-meaning adult said, "Son, there's just too many.
You can't save them all.
It's not worth it. You can't, there's just too many. You might as well give up. You can't save them all." And the little boy held the starfish up and said, "I saved this one," and threw it in the water. He grabbed another one. Yeah. "I saved this one," threw it in the water. And, that's kind of what our life is like. We saved this one. Yeah. Okay, we didn't save them all, but we saved this one.
We're going to die trying.
Yeah. we're going to live our life to the end and give our life, and we're going to serve as we have been served and try to love as we've been loved. And hopefully in the end, we take a small crowd of witnesses with us who will praise the Lord, who will bend their knee and praise the Lord before the King of Glory.
So his love for us is so great. And then our response is to try to love him in return, love the people in return, and point them to him, right?
Our response and our responsibility is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, and that again is like we talk about every week is like we're responsible. We're responsible to these words right here. They're going to judge us. He's going to judge us. And this commandment and the love, we're responsible to love as we've been loved. And that's everything. Yeah.
So as to our listeners, I just maybe challenge you this week to pray and ask the Lord where you can step out of your comfort zone and find somebody or someone in your family, friends, in your neighborhood, community that you can demonstrate love to in a new way. Because we get to be the light of the world, and that's pretty special that Jesus chooses to use us. So
Amen.
Thank you so much for listening. What I did want to throw in here really quickly at the end is that our Gift of Hope Christmas Assistance Program, which is one of the ways we demonstrate love to our community, is we have just over 1,000 children this year who we're going to help provide Christmas gifts for. And for our listeners, if you're near or far, if you visit www.giftofhopeoroville.org, you can choose a child to sponsor with Christmas presents this year. So take a look at that link. It'll be in the show notes.
Can you say that one more time?
www.giftofhopeoroville.org. These kids are in need, and we want to bless them. I at their registration day, I heard stories of just families that were, between the fires and all the other things that have been going on in our region over the last few years, are just without, and the blessing that this ministry makes people's lives is really made human again to me in a way. So we have prayer needs for them. We're praying. We're going to provide them with gifts, and it's going to be a really real blessing. So please consider partnering with us on that. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great day.
Awesome.